So we're going to call to order the regular meeting of the Clark County Election Board. It's 4:47. Hang on. All right, we're calling to order the regular meeting of the Clark County Election Board. It's 4:47. Present, myself, Andrew Steele. With me also is Tony Singleton, Republican Party appointee, and Ryan Lynch, our county clerk. Taking minutes is Miss Joey Hagan. And then all of you, we'll save you all the trouble of identifying yourself. You all signed in on the list. So I'm just going to incorporate the sign-in list into our minutes to show that we have several members of the public here that will probably get your names as we go into the meeting. We're going to first deal with our new business. We have had a couple of things. Absentee mail ballots. Ryan, can you update us on when those go out?
They will be out by the end of the week. We have a deadline. The state deadline is this weekend, right?
Saturday.
Saturday. So we plan to have the first round of ballots out.
We did
Friday.
When we did ballot proofs. I reviewed the submission to me, went through. I didn't see any. Of course, there's a lot, so I'm just speaking for myself. I didn't see any mistakes or misspellings. Did we have any complaints or anybody public that had questioned our ballot proofs to see if there was anything?
I think there was a couple. I can't remember exactly. We had it fixed already, and then when we released them, those had already been. There was really early fines.
So we did correct it.
Yeah. Right now, we're working with the state. There's been was it a judge?
We'll get.
Yeah.
We'll move into that one here in a second.
We're working with the state to fix something, but
excellent. But it's not ballot related.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it is ballot related, but it's
Later.
we'll be able to fix it.
Yeah.
Excuse me, how do you request an absentee ballot?
You can
Call
call
your
here,
office.
ask for one, or an application, and we'll mail it out to you. Or you can go to indianavoters.com and fill out the form on there.
And I encourage, this will be a high turnout year, just like it was in 2020. I encourage everybody to vote early. That way you know it's safe, secure, and it's done. As many people will be open here 2 weeks prior to the election, collecting ballots. They're all going to be stored securely at the end of every night, and all ballots are counted under the guidance of the election board and our absentee ballot board. So I encourage everybody to try to vote early. Save yourself the frustration and the headache of going to your polling location on election day if, God willing, we don't have any bad weather. But if there is some reason that there is a problem, we want to save everybody the hassle of having to wait in any kind of line or anything like that. The last day to register or to update your registration is going to be October 7th. Have we been collecting regular voter registration requests? Just on the regular flow?
Yeah.
Excellent.
More than usual? I'm sorry, I have a question.
It's kind of fluctuated. I think I can't remember how many on average. We were getting around 50, 75 a day for a little bit. But that number has come down a little bit.
Don't know the total.
Not off the top of my head.
They're all U.S. citizens.
Yeah, of course they are. Yes, it says on your registration.
Of course.
Do you have to provide proof when you ask for an absentee
Usually your
ballot?
birth certificate. No, on an absentee ballot, if you're registered to vote, you
Okay.
receive an absentee ballot
Okay.
because you've already gone through the process of registration. So early in-person voting is going to begin here October 7th, the day after registration closes. And we'll be voting here
8th. It starts here on the 8th.
October 8th, I'm sorry, yeah. And we'll be voting here at the courthouse from 9 to 4. We'll have early in-person voting at the Tri-Township Fire Department from October 21st through November 1st and Saturday, November 2nd. Have we finalized our hours on that yet?
It's 11 to
11 to
6, right? Yeah,
11 to 6. Excellent. And
Except what about Saturday?
I believe we said on the same for Saturday.
excellent. And then for that voting period, have we published or sent anything to the Evening News and Tribune?
I don't believe we have yet.
If we could prepare legal notice to go out to notify, at least in that section of the newspaper, and then any kind of press release, I would like to see one. We can send it to WAVE, WDRB, WHAS. They may put it up on their webpage. I doubt they'd actually put it on the television show.
One of them did show up at the satellite location during the primary. I don't remember which one it was.
Yes. Now, the new business that we did receive, this came to us later last week from Election Division, correct?
Yeah.
And then we had received a Help America Vote Act ADA compliance complaint from, and that one will go in a minute, from the Election Division. They had reviewed a complaint that had been sent in for purposes of our meeting. I'm going to move that we keep the complainant's name confidential. But they were a registered voter who had gone to vote at
Charlestown Middle School.
Charlestown Middle School. They are 100% visually impaired, and that the voting machine for blind people was not functioning fully. The machine had not been turned on. The volunteers at the precinct were not ready to facilitate its use for me. The machine needs time to turn on and then requires a code. My friend, who is also visually impaired, successfully voted in Clarksville nearby. I'm excited to vote in the fall in November. Thank you for your consideration. They were not trained to operate the unit. So this complaint was sent directly to the Indiana Election Division, as all complaints can also be submitted there as well to us. We got notice of this last week, so this was, I would assume, for our May primary. We've started a review of our training materials. As you all are aware, many of you work at the polling locations. The auto mark machine is to be set up and plugged in at all times, ready to go for anybody that comes in to vote. Apparently, our election board people at Clarksville Middle School or Charlestown Middle School decided they weren't going to do that. So we are going to be addressing that with them individually. Truthfully, my recommendation is going to be that they don't work that polling location in those positions again. Done. This kind of stuff infuriates me. During the day when we travel throughout the county, part of our function is to inspect each of the polling locations, and where we find it, and many of you have probably also seen it too, you'll see that black case sitting over on a table in the corner that hasn't even been opened. Of course, the first thing that's supposed to be done is that gets turned on with the rest of the machines. It is a voting machine just the same as any other. When this occurs, this, in my opinion, is voter suppression. Anytime that someone has to wait or it's difficult for them to cast their vote, you are delaying or denying them their right to vote. It should be as easy as breathing air. And in this case, this voter was denied that ability. I am going to make a motion that we prepare a response to this complaint, and that we will be preparing a letter to mail to her so that she's aware that we have reviewed it. I don't ever expect to see this again at Charlestown Middle School, because I don't expect to see those people again at Charlestown Middle School, at least not working in their role. So we're going to change. If you can't change people, you change people, right? Mm-hmm. You get somebody else to come in and do it. And this will also be going forth. We're going to obviously re-stress this again in our training materials, because it clearly didn't sink in the first time. All of our training material is completely updated every year with all of the guidelines from the Indiana Election Division. And I'm disappointed that this is a complaint that we've received as much as I think any of our other members would be. So I'm going to ask that we prepare a letter, that it goes to our complainant here. I'm going to also ask that we rotate out these people that were working the polling location that day. They're free to serve in some other capacity, but they will not be working at Charlestown Middle School in whatever jobs they were assigned that day. I'm going to put that forward as a motion. Is there a second on that motion?
Second.
Is there all in favor?
Aye.
So we'll show that one carried.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So was that individual ultimately able to vote?
I am going to assume that she was. She had not filed a complaint before with the county election board, and
Doesn't state either way.
it doesn't state either way, but turn on then requires a code. So somebody stood there and explained it to her, because that wouldn't necessarily be information that a voter would know immediately on how to turn on an auto mark. So it was probably, we're really sorry, it takes a long time. And if she was there at 6:01, I might, I could say, okay. But at the same time, if you were there on your lunch break at 12 o'clock and it took you a half an hour before you could process your ballot, I would say you have every right to be upset. Again, it should be like breathing air. You should be able to go in and do it. That's what rights are for us. They're guarantees.
And just for the sake of the record, I would note that, as Andy said, we did not receive a copy of this.
Yeah, this didn't come to
directly.
us directly.
And it was looking at the date, it was completed, well, this is odd, 22nd day of August,
Mhm.
and it was marked, I guess maybe it got kicked back, because there was a mark of August 13th, but a second mark on August 27th, stamped from the Indiana Election Division. So I'm guessing maybe something was
So I
official
can,
one way.
I can speak on that. So
Okay.
later in a couple weeks after, I guess, this day, we got a letter from the election division saying that we got this complaint, but that it was not, the individual did not have it notarized. So because of state statute, they couldn't do anything with it. So then that person was notified, and they went through the process again to fulfill the requirements for it.
So it has to be notarized
If they're filing, yeah, in this form, the form that the state has, if you're filing a complaint, it has to be notarized, and then before you send it to them,
Yeah, there's a
there's a spot.
You have to be a registered
Certification.
voter. You have to have direct knowledge of the complaint. You can't just say, I saw somebody else go through this problem. So each one of those, that's necessarily, if we were to call her here and we were to ask her questions, it wouldn't be hearsay for her to testify. Well, I heard and I heard so-and-so said. We don't do that. So part of the reason that's for the notary, and that's the reason why it's a direct complaint sent by the voter.
But my original point on that, as I looked at it, I got confused, but my original point was going to be August 27th was technically when, I guess, the election division accepted this. So it's unfortunate that that occurred May 7th, and we're just now, basically, right on the eve of the election, so we could have addressed it sooner.
Yeah, well, the horse had left the barn on May the 7th.
Right.
So whether or not, our training materials are updated regularly. I don't know if there was much we could have done if they'd have filed it in June or July, or even she sent it in August. She may not have even been aware that she had the ability to file a complaint until August. Doesn't matter. The fact of it is, it occurred. I think we're going to review and update on the next meeting, so make sure that that stays on our agenda. The next meeting is just our training materials so that we can rebrief the public and reassure our fellow citizens that have disabilities that under no circumstances are we going to try to delay or hamper their ability to vote.
Well, we have to thank her for taking.
Yes,
Absolutely.
and that will be in our letter. I want to make sure that she's commended because she does. I'm sure that this has happened more than once, right? Because she stood up and raised her hand, we have the ability to address it. So she doesn't just help herself at Charlestown Middle School. She is forcing us to go back and review and to make sure that when we do training again, come October, that we are going to hit that nail as hard as we can to stress to people, do you want to be the subject of a federal lawsuit? Because once every poll worker, every precinct worker, you sign your name, you swear the oath, you're a party, just the same as we are. So we'd all get called in, and we could all be named in that lawsuit. So don't want to be that guy. So that I may sound kind of harsh when I'm saying they ain't going to work there anymore. But I think that's the safest way to do it. If you can't change people, you change people. Now we're going to move on to our old
Can I-
business. Go ahead.
Jeff, I'm sorry, but working early voting last year in May, I had somebody complain here. We were working here and complained about how hard to just get it here. Parking, long
Yes.
walk in, got to go through scanner and all that. And I mean, it doesn't stop a person, but it does.
Our building
And
is
that
ADA
person
compliant for
was
its
hard-
normal function.
hard
Again,
work.
voting, I wish that there was a better way.
Yeah.
All we have is our ramps. Oh, vote through this door. Unfortunately, 9/11 stopped that for everybody.
Yeah.
So, we've got to have the security.
That's
I
why
worked
we-
here at the time when a probationer took a gun to a probation meeting up on the second floor back in 2011. And she produced a firearm that, but for the fact it had jammed, she probably would have shot the probation officer in his office. And they took her out to jail. And my staff at the time in the child support division were huddled under their desks behind a locked door. So the security measure is necessary. It has occurred here. And we have intercepted people come in with K-bar knives taped to their backs. Yeah. So you get some weird stuff.
Whatever it takes.
That's why we're trying to get out the word about the other location.
Which
Because we
is
really,
very
it's very easy. It's all on one level, and you basically park at the door.
And early. I can't stress that enough. If the closer you get to time, and you looked at if we even hit close to what we had, did we have 55 or 60,000 votes in 2020?
It was around 16.
Yeah. When you just do the math of trying to collect that number of ballots within a set period of time, and the number, it starts to rack up. And if it takes 30 seconds for one person, just a minimum of 30 seconds to fill out a ballot, the time that they're in the polling location to receive the ballot, get checked in, blah, 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 go to the polling location, take 30 seconds, and then go back up. All of that stuff, each delay kicks the next one to a delay. So this is a logistics type situation at that point. Go ahead, Kelly.
So on your poll workers, what's the deadline for having them submitted to this office from both parties?
I believe is that
We're usually first week of October because we start the training in,
we have
either
those
small
training
groups or in groups,
2 weeks leading up to the
2
election.
weeks leading up. So we have to know who they are.
It's coming up.
Our contingency is we'll advertise to fill it.
And so my next question is, and I know there's always perhaps issues getting poll workers, signed up. But I would, in a perfect world, there would be the first shift poll workers and then the second shift poll workers. If everyone would volunteer, when they, those that can, to work the polls, both parties. And but Ryan, you can, as clerk, can't you also get volunteers in your office to work the polls if the parties don't?
Like as far as people from my office?
No,
You mean like
I'm not
appoint
going to
people.
work for the.
I got
I'm not
you.
going to
I
work
got
for
you.
the two major parties.
Sure.
As a libertarian.
Right. I believe
So-
there is a route
Yes.
through that avenue.
For
We
you.
haven't, through me.
Okay.
We haven't had to do that. The parties have, at least since I've been here, have
They've made it just.
Supplied.
The Democrat,
Just
truthfully,
barely.
the Democratic Party has never really had a problem filling our spots. It's been working with the Republican Party and getting their their precinct workers to the polls and ready to work. That has consistently been the issue over the last decade that I've done this job. And I don't think that's necessarily the individual worker's fault. I think it's the training has gotten shifted off to or the collection of the names, the coordination has just been a revolving door. And that usually, I think, Connie Sellers has handled it for the last couple of years, and they've done a very good job of getting it to us on time. Usually the drop dead for me is if I don't see both of the lists within a week of training, my feeling is I'll advertise, and the only question you have to ask is, are you registered to vote? And when the last primary you voted in, which party did you pull the ballot for? And then that's where you will go. And we'll hire if we have to. I mean, we'll hold interviews and bring people in.
Well, and see, and in my case, it doesn't apply. But since we're gonna be on film here, how much do the poll workers, what's the breakdown on how much they get paid?
Sure. So it was 180 for inspector. It is 150 for the Democratic judge, 130 for the Republican judge, and 130 for the clerks.
I don't understand the difference, so you'll have to explain that.
Between
to
the Democrat
judges,
judge
yeah.
So the Democrat judge
Has
acts
to
as
accompany
the
the inspector.
the Democrat party to the inspector. So they get paid
Oh,
more
they
because they're
double
supposed to
dipping.
come.
Yeah.
They come
They
the
have to
night
bring the
before
ballots
to
back.
set up, and they come with them back to the clerk's or the courthouse in order to bring all the materials. And
Okay. All right, thanks.
Information's also on our website.
Okay. Information's also on your website.
So all these new voters that you say you've had in the last few months, have they pretty much come here to register?
We get a lot online.
Get a lot online. So
Yeah.
how do you prove if they're online, how do you see their birth certificate?
Well, the state law requires them to either give us their driver's license number or the last four of their socials.
Well, that won't prove they're a citizen, though.
Yeah, your driver's license definitely will, because you have to show a birth certificate for your driver's license. The little star on your driver's license is verified. Indiana does not allow non-citizen driving, so you're not gonna have somebody that gets a driver's license that isn't a citizen, period.
That's Social Security's last four.
Well, but it still has to be verified, so once they submit their SOCH number, it still has to go through and be cross-reffed. So again, it's only gonna be listed for the name of that person, so Lord forbid somebody actually is figured out a way to hide their identity with a social security number. You're not gonna see it because they still have to come to the polling location, and what's the most important thing at the polling location? The identification with their face on the picture, right? And you hold it up and look at it and say, that's not you, right? So
But
that's
you were
the number.
referring to absentee, weren't you?
Yeah.
She said voter
But they,
registration.
yeah,
Oh,
voter
right.
registration, and then in
Okay.
absentee, they've already done that. That's how they're able to vote absentee.
The clerks need to be reminded to look at the photo.
Yeah.
Because they don't.
Especially when you get a long line.
It has that scan.
Pressured to
I know.
keep it moving.
But you say you look at the picture and you say, okay, that's you. They don't do that.
Okay, that's a
So
good,
I just
that's a
think
good
that,
It
suggestion.
has
I'm just
been-
saying that
Sure,
needs to be put in the training, that
Exactly.
you need to really look at the picture. That's all I'm saying.
It is in the,
Because
it
there's a
has
lot
been
of
in the
times
training
they just
materials.
flip
since I've been there, but
Yeah.
we will definitely
Well,
I mean,
No,
I'm
I
just
I
telling you what
appreciate
see.
that.
Sure,
I agree with
absolutely.
you.
But when the new voters come in here to register, you want to see their birth certificate? Or
It's
just
the same process. We have to,
Just-
if they fill
so
out
you
the
don't have-
information on there,
Okay.
on the form, and that's what we have to have.
And you just look at the driver's license and last
And
one,
the last
social,
one is
you don't
social.
look at a birth certificate. So
Yeah.
We aren't looking at birth certificate.
But to get a valid driver's license and to have valid ID, that's what you have to produce to the Indiana Bureau of Motor Vehicles. So you're not going to be able to get a valid driver's license without showing that proof. And you can't get a valid driver's license or ID without them basically verifying your social security number. It's not unheard of to have people with unverified social security numbers try to get valid driver's licenses. And in my other line of work here, I pull up driver's licenses all day long of people that have unverified social security numbers, and their driver's licenses are revoked or suspended. So they could not be able to get a valid, they could not be able to register to vote like that. Their status has to be a validly issued, state-issued ID. So that also comports with federal guidelines, that comports with Indiana's guidelines. So there's nothing out of the ordinary. Indiana's about as, white bread as it gets as far as making sure that people are registered to vote properly and that they're U.S. citizens. We don't get those kind of complaints that often. Anybody else want to address it or have anything else want to add?
And do you purge the voting rolls?
Yeah, so we do as the state allows. So every couple of years, the state will send out the voter list maintenance postcards and then there's a process that those go through, and then we go through those. And we also, here in the office, we go through, we get information from the health department, or the health department, as far as people that have passed away, and then we change those statuses in there.
And when's the last time before the election that's?
I think when I first took over in 23, they had just sent out the postcards. The Secretary of State's office had just started that process. I can't remember how many years they do it.
It's usually every 2 to 3 years there will be small batches done.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say they try to run the entire county at once, because that would be an astronomical amount of mail. Because what happens is they have to send the notice card from state to whatever the precinct is. They have to give it a statutory period of time for them to respond. Once it comes back, either it gets returned or they don't respond, they get put into a not canceled status, but kind of like a inactive, which means that they can still go to vote, but some of the information they're going to have to update it with us. And usually we don't have to collect a provisional ballot for inactive. We can go ahead and process them through, because we've got the forms at the polling locations for them to correct their address or anything that day. Go ahead.
Next question. My ID was compromised, and I had to submit a letter to the DMV, an affidavit to get a new driver's license with a new driver's license number on it, which I just recently did. The lady at the DMV, she said that since I had a new driver's license number, there would be some quirks, quote, in the system. So I tried pulling it up, and it shows that
With your driving record or your voting ability?
That my driver's license new number may not show up through the whole system of anybody that uses my driver's license as a form of ID, because the driver's license number would check, such as if they ran my license plate of my vehicle and then I presented my driver's license.
That should correct itself once you've updated your driving registration, or they should have done it there.
6 to 8 weeks for that to correct itself.
That's the BMV.
Do you think that could be a possibility, or
I mean, you can call the office.
The only way you're going to know is
Run
when
your
you go to
name.
the polls on election day and you show them your ID and they say, no, you've already voted. Then you're going to have a case.
Well, I'm not saying I already voted, but just maybe not shown as a valid ID.
No, whatever number they've issued you with, it should be the one that comes up.
Okay.
Yeah, because they will do the interface with the BMV usually a couple of weeks before.
Okay.
And that should be plenty of time for your new number to be updated.
So you guys are querying the data and.
Yeah, oh yeah, they have to interface almost on a nightly basis. Like voter, what do we call the system? It just escaped me.
Which one we have?
SVRS.
SVRS is the
Yeah.
state voter registration.
And those interface with DMV records, health department records on an almost daily basis because of the volume. And you said you received a new driver's license number, new 10-digit number. Okay. You might want to try to run your name online. Go to mybmv.com for Indiana and just run your name and date of birth and see if 2 numbers pop up. One should show valid, one should show not valid. Hopefully, they got the not valid one correct. If it doesn't show at all, even better, the not valid one. If it only is issued your identification under that new number, then I think you're even better off. Because I've seen stuff like that happen tons of times where you'll have the same individual, but because they were unlicensed as a 16-year-old and had a car accident, right? They were driving without a valid driver's license. They get issued a 10-digit number just for the purpose of that charge. But then later on, they go back and they apply and they get a valid driver's license, and then they get a new driver's license number. So that is not impossible to have happen, even though the Social Security number is identical.
Don't vote early, vote often.
No, just vote. So the last thing I wanted to do was address with you guys, the last piece of business was the updates on the complaints that you all had submitted for the campaigns, Hoosiers for Jeffersonville PAC, Jeff Republicans PAC, and the I'm for Mike Moore campaign PAC. I know that we had to cancel our last meeting back in August. We didn't have any official business set. Back in August, we had just received a response from the attorney for the campaigns, literally the business day before that meeting. So we did not have enough time to review it. In the months since then, I have personally, because we can't talk about this stuff or deliberate about it privately, but I can only update you on what I've done. And then I'll let Ryan and Tony speak for themselves. There was quite a bit of information in their packet. Originally, we had copies out here on the table. I don't feel comfortable giving those out yet because Mr. Klutz, who's the attorney for those parties, isn't here to respond today, and I haven't asked him to be here to respond yet. There was enough information in there that it's taking me time to research it. And I'm not, again, speaking for Tony or Ryan. I've had some contact with the Indiana Election Division on basically how best to proceed and what kind of information do I need to be looking for. We have a very big election coming up in November, and Election Division made it clear that as the chairman of the board, I can set this on the agenda at a time where I think it's most appropriate, and I think the time that's most appropriate is going to be for us to look at it in November. So my plan is at our October meeting, as I've gone through and researched this, I do have a couple of follow-up questions based on the submissions from the attorney. And we may either send a letter or a list of questions for more documentation or information from him. And that by the time we have the November meeting, send notice to him for him to come down if we're going to do anything. It's not been determined that there's anything underhanded or illegal that's, we can't talk about it, we can't deliberate it. So as far as I'm concerned, it's just information that we've received. I want to make sure that we go slow enough that we get a chance to look at everything that they tendered to us, and I'm also encouraging you guys that if you have anything else that you want to add or submit to us, the record here remains open. Understanding that whatever's tendered to us, we're going to forward to their counsel basically to tell them this is what we've received, this is what they want to know answers for. I want something in our file before I talk to the public about it. By the October meeting, I'm hoping that at the October meeting, the three of us will convene and review a letter or list of interrogatories or questions for the attorney, just asking for more clarification. There isn't a whole lot that I'm expecting to get back except for basically receipts or something like that. The campaign's treasurer is required to keep information on file for a period of time. So, and none of the stuff that was raised in the complaint was earlier than the 2023 election cycle, so I'm confident that they should be able to answer some of those questions that I've started working on myself. I can't speak for Ryan and Tony. That's how I want to go forward with it. I'm looking to deal with the complaint and to see what other steps we need to have first at the October meeting with a list of questions, if I have any more, and then send a letter to the attorney or a list of questions to the attorney so that if we get a response back, he can come answer questions before the board or to the public. I may just throw them to the wolves. I don't know. Let you all ask the questions yourselves. And then I'm hoping maybe by the October meeting too, after I've had a chance to review it, to make all the information that we received back from them available to you all so that you can read it as well. So I hope that is sufficient enough explanation for what happened in August. We didn't have any official business, and we had just received the information, so I didn't feel like it was necessary for us to drag everybody down and say we don't have anything for you. It would have been a waste of your time. And I didn't want to do that. So that's why we reset the August meeting. Today I'm giving you guys my explanation for what we're doing. I can't speak for them. and that my plan going forward is that we're gonna bring it back up in October, talk about it, and then hopefully by November, everything will be ready that I can present something to you or let you all see what we've got, and then have the attorney for the campaigns come down and maybe even address you directly. I felt like that was going to be the easiest way to deal with it, and probably make it more clear, because I can't, I'm an attorney, but I have to put on a different hat when I'm looking at this stuff. I understand the Indiana code, but when it comes to the finer points of the Indiana code for the election law, I'm doing the same as most people. I call up to the Indiana Election Division. I consult with the attorneys up there. They have a Democratic and a Republican appointee and an attorney for each of those, so I try to get opinions from all of them, and then try to proceed best forward as we can. We've got a lot of stuff coming up before November, and I did not want to get sidetracked. Basically, the information in the complaint is stuff that was over a year old, so if it waits a month, if it waits 2 months, it's totally fine. We're not rushing to put out any fires. The main thing that I want to stay focused on is making sure that we carry off our November election without any kind of, worst case scenario stuff. So just keeping our eye on the ball basically for the November election, and then we'll get to the campaign complaints at the November meeting. Yeah.
Shift gears on this. Come down to a public question. First thing, the little group of people that are here, we've got a lot of community outreach with a lot of people, a lot of contact with everybody, and kind of doing our little civic responsibility. Is there anything that you recommend that we do to help this process, the election process, to help you guys without spreading false rumors or making claims that may not be true, or whatever, that you wish that we would do to help?
I don't know what social media you all engage in. I avoid it myself pretty much anymore. I don't go on Facebook as much as I used to. Maybe I should, but I just don't. It's not entertaining to me anymore.
I just basically want to try to put a positive spin on what's going on and move beyond corruption or whatever.
So, we have the news.
Yeah.
And nobody's going to shy away from that. We know what that says. But that's separate from this. And until there's something else that develops that is way outside of anything this election board's ever going to review.
Okay, well, that was my next point.
I don't have any comment or any kind of reason to have an opinion about what's in those.
Lessons learned with the Republican Party in the last presidential election, if they step up and go to every county clerk's office and demand a complete hand count of all the ballots.
I've already thought about that.
Are you guys prepared for that?
Well, we're going to wait until those come, and we're going to take our advice from the Indiana Election Division. Those are going to be lawsuits that are filed in front of courts. And to prove your case in a court, you actually have to have evidence, and you actually have to be able to prove it. That's why that system works. So this board is going to be prepared to carry out any orders that come from a judge regarding any kind of election recount, but we're not responsible for doing that kind of stuff. And that when people make recount complaints,
it'll be done outside of this office. If there is,
understandably, that's all going to be done under the supervision of a judge. So we're not going to be involved in that kind of stuff.
I hate to see that happen, but
well, I mean, but it's similar. It's the same as any kind of recount we've done in the past. I mean, we're custodians of the ballots. We're custodians of the record. If there's a mistake in the record or somebody wishes to have a recount and it qualifies, we deliver the information to the recount committee. They appoint their members. They go through that line by line and scratch by scratch and determine what's a valid vote for them and what isn't. We don't do that for the entire ballot. Because oftentimes there's no question about who won an election. If someone runs uncontested, there's no question about who won, right?
I guess looking at it, there may be a reason to try to delay the certification process by doing what I said, pushing for the. We
know that 10 days after the election, our office has to have its certification prepared and sent to the Bureau. Even in 2020, with all of the contested races and every lawsuit that was filed, blah, blah, blah. We fully performed we functioned as normal. We carried on and did all of our business. We didn't have any complaints as far as I was aware about that kind of stuff in Clark County. Yeah, I mean, and that was that was the biggest year of turnout that I've ever seen in my lifetime. And we seemed to weather that pretty well. Go ahead.
So sorry, John, but to go back to the old business, did you two have anything, Andrew spoke about?
Yeah.
Did you two have anything since the complaints were brought to you all that you wanted to share here with
Sure,
us?
yeah, of course. So I'm very similar to what Andy said, in a sense of, I'm trying to understand more deeply on what the laws are that were brought forward. As everyone knows, we do have an election that we're trying to plan correctly as right now as well. So I've spent a lot of time really just learning more about the specific laws that were brought forth. Just like him, I'm working on questions that are pertinent to the complaints, because campaign finance laws they're always very important to me, and I think that in my campaign finance reports, I have an accountant that helps me make sure that everything, all my I's are dotted and my T's are crossed. So I've taken a lot of time to, like I said, educate myself, and there's a lot of information came with these complaints. Lots of information. So I'm not taking it lightly. I don't want to rush it, like Andy said. I want to make sure that we look at every line and do everything that we can to make sure that, if there is anything to be held accountable for, that it's held accountable.
So this Mr. Klutz was hired by them then to represent all three of these entities, rather than having the chairman and the candidate respond like Mr. Miller and Mr. Grooms did to the earlier complaint.
Yeah, but that was their choice.
Yeah.
And here their choice was to hire counsel to help. I mean, basically, I have when we're dealing with these PACs, they're probably, it's not hard to understand that the Jeff Republican PAC and the I'm for Mike Moore campaign and the Hoosiers for Jeffersonville PAC are all probably working as, a team on whatever candidates or issues they decide. So there's probably a high level of coordination between the three of them. That's fine if they want to accept donations or they make donations. As far as I've read, there's nothing illegal about that. And that if they are working under the umbrella of the Republican Party of Clark County and they hire Mr. Klutz, they can all hire Mr. Klutz if they choose. And, when the time comes, if you all want to ask him about how he was retained or how did he come to be the guy, you're free to ask him that. But his submission came to us literally days before our last meeting, before we had an opportunity to fully review it. He sent us a couple of follow-up emails. I do not respond on behalf of the board. Everything is forwarded directly to all of our members and our staff, so that it's completely transparent as to, I haven't had any direct conversations with this attorney, so that you all understand.
Did you have anything, Tony?
I'd say ditto. My take is very similar. I mean, I think it's important for us to get all the information, and we did get that. We did get their submission again, as everybody else has said right before. I reviewed obviously the information that you all brought forth, and kind of did a cursory read. I didn't dig too deep into the response yet because I wanted to wait till we had a little bit more guidance from the state, but also to have I guess I've had an opportunity to formulate a few questions. There'll be a few more coming. I think we'll probably have an entertaining meeting, as entertaining as you can have with a couple of lawyers and a clerk in front of you.
Who's not an attorney?
Yeah.
Just say that.
Just on wordsmithing questions, which I suspect, but I look forward to really deliberating and having those discussions when we get there.
Is Klutz a local attorney?
No,
No.
Indianapolis.
He is out of Indianapolis, Taft Law Firm. It was relayed to me that he used to be employed, I think, by the Indiana Election Commission, or had worked as a consultant for the state. So my expectation is he's familiar with the law that he's practicing in, and he knows the contours probably better than we would or anybody else in the room. I'm not concerned about that because he still has to represent factual and truthful information that's based on real evidence. He can't just wing it. But that's my expectation is when he's here personally with us, he's got to have notice. He's asked to be here. I just don't think it's necessary to drag him down here, not being fully prepared to ask the proper questions. I don't want to come off looking like some idiot on a county board. Could you tell me how this works? Right. I don't want to be that guy. Right.
So, is any of the communication that has occurred so far that would not be available for public record
I
requests
don't feel
because it's an
comfortable releasing
open?
it because there are, I would say that there's names and addresses associated with some of the stuff that was filed to us that I don't know if they're released to release that information. That's part of what I want to follow up with him. So I don't want that to go out into the public stream. Lord knows that ends up on a television broadcast or something, and it's like, here we are, just shaking our head. Clark County's in the news for too many of the wrong reasons. I want to make sure that it's in the news for the right reasons.
One more question. You said that since this is open, we are free to submit any additional information
please
if we
bring
come
it on.
across it. So that would,
Yeah,
what kind of statute of limitations would you accept? I mean, are we only able to submit a year back, or
I
is
would
there?
say, be reasonable, number one. There's no, as far as I know, statute of limitations on any of this stuff. It's, typically the standard for a civil filing is when you became aware of it, and then the clock starts ticking. So we've had that information. I did go and download those reports from our own website. I think it's actually pretty fabulous, and I'm sitting there reading who is this, and where did this come from, who shares all the same addresses, and they're all probably pretty straightforward explanations. But the fact of it was, I've had that resource available to me. I encourage you all to continue to use it. If you find something that raises a question, I don't have any reason for us to say, no, we're not going to hear that because I'm just not going to accept that. I could tell you later, there's nothing to it, but I'd rather be open and have anything brought to us. I'll leave this record open. I don't have any reason to stop you from sending stuff to us. I like that. I want to be as transparent as possible and shine sunlight on anything that we can. So,
And I don't know if this is right or not, but also obviously the volume of information that's given could potentially change the timeline of.
Yeah, I mean,
obviously,
there's only three of us, and we have jobs and families, and so
not to discourage anybody from giving us, obviously.
yeah, I'll look at it. Can't guarantee it's going to be tomorrow.
Well, I'm glad that you're looking further back because I know we submitted some information that goes back more than a year. So
Yeah,
I
some
was
of the
kind of
stuff
wondering
on
if you
our
were
website.
looking.
I think goes back to the 2021 cycle, 2020. Excuse me. So I mean, if it's there and we've all got access to it, we made it available, and you got questions, I'll try to get you an answer. And in some cases, I appreciate the fact that they've hired an attorney that can condense the information and help us through it, rather than having somebody, just submit us a handful of receipts or check stubs or something, and then here, you do with it as you want, right? So in this instance, with working with these campaigns, I think it's probably, it's beneficial. When Mr. Miller had the complaint here and we were asking about why was this filed then and not why was it filed late, not earlier, because the bill hadn't come due yet. So the answer is pretty straightforward. Amend your filing, show it on the previous one, and we'll call that what it is. He elected not to hire an attorney. He could have. You all could hire an attorney. I mean, there's really no reason to stop you.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
it's up to you guys.
That's right.
I would hope that, we have an arm's length relationship for the most part. You guys have been here for all of our meetings, at least for the last year. So you know how we operate. hear each one of you. So, and unless we can't figure out how to talk or figure out something to say, I don't know if a third party is necessarily going to be beneficial to the helping file the complaint. You all have done a very good job, in my opinion. When you submit filings or complaints to us, they're in plain English, and I can read it and understand it and try to find out what I can for you. So, for what it's worth.
So you were downloading campaign finance completed forms, right? Is this something you were doing?
They're on, yeah, you mean like, we scanned them and put them on the
Right.
website, yeah.
So how are you doing on those? Everybody's caught up now for the
Yes.
scanning and
Everything,
So forth.
anything that gets added now is being added in real time as they get dropped off.
nice, very nice, thank you.
Whatever's on our website is in our filing cabinet.
Okay.
I just want to make one comment. I really do appreciate you all focusing on our presidential election primarily, and I think it's totally appropriate to push this beyond, and I'm glad you didn't rush to finish it because you've got something bigger coming up. I appreciate you saying that you'd like to take some time on this, and I think that's great to move
Thank
it.
you. I just didn't want you all to think that we were ignoring you either. It came in, the information, the email after the last meeting got reset. I think you were on the email. It was like basically, what's happening. I didn't want to leave you in the dark. So I felt it was appropriate that we addressed it today and let you all know at least my thoughts on how it was going. And
So the response you got, was it just like a letter response, or did you
Yeah, it
actually
was
get supporting documentation?
it was a packet of information. I don't even want to describe it, but it was probably 15 pages of documentation that was submitted to us, and then there was a follow-up email that was distributed to us that I sent back to our other members. So it was probably about 25 pages worth of stuff to go through, and there was a memorandum, basically. His letter essentially was a memorandum basically explaining what I'm supposed to be looking at from their point of view. And when the time comes, I'll get the permission, I'll release it to the public and then let you all review it. And then, you can pick through it if you want. And then we can add more follow-up questions after we've got follow-up questions. But I want to deal with that at the October meeting. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on it because I'm hoping that we hit the sweet spot that when we review our questions together and approve them, that if you all have any additional ones to add, give you some time, before we send anything to them before the November meeting, we can update it and add to it. That's about it.
So we'll probably need some copies, multiple copies.
Yes. Well, and
And there's
originally
complaint.
we had them up here on the table, but I was like, let's not do that because I don't want to release something and then find out later that was a no-no. But in due time, if we can, you have my promise, we will. So you all will get everything that we have. But we have to vote to release it. So, I would expect that we've been pretty much unanimous on all of our decisions in the past. I don't have a reason to not be unanimous on releasing it. So, that's the safest way to proceed is, we'll vote on it.
So barring anything, there will be an October meeting.
Yeah,
Well,
we've
that'll
got,
have to be an
before we're
October
done
meeting.
here, we
You've got
have to
other-
set, when is machine test?
Yeah, we'll have to do that.
Yeah, we're gonna have to, because we're
Set
gonna,
that at your
yeah.
October meeting. Okay.
before I call us to recess this,
Yeah.
I know that we've got dates to review for training and tests.
Sorry.
Or the maintenance guys, I don't know what else to call them, Bubby Bissing and Nick Mobley, are they still the same?
Bubby will be with us. I
Yeah,
don't
that's-
think Nick is going to be with us this cycle. I think
He is.
Nick was, Nick's sticking
For
around.
both of them?
around.
Okay.
Sticking
This time.
around. So both of them will be with us this time.
Next year they'll focus on
Yeah, Nick, I guess Nick wants to retire.
So the next meeting is October 21st?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
And we'll plan for the 4:45. Heidi, what's
I
up?
did have a question about Jeff 3
Susan Pop, Chrissy, you might know something about the entrance and where the signage is placed as two different spots.
Jeff 3 is now going to be at St. Augustine's.
No,
No, Jeff 3 is Cossie.
That's who? Cossie?
It's always, yeah.
That's over at Maple.
It's old, right, Jeff? Maybe it's Spring, Old Spring, yeah.
yeah, it's the
It's Old Spring.
down in
Oh,
Placer.
man. Okay, yeah. Usually the entrance is in the back to the gym,
Yeah.
and everything has to be, and we've gone down there and policed that. There is a concrete, a little outbuilding around, that comes off the backside of the cafeteria, that the tip of that, far corner of that, edge of that building in a semicircle is the 50-foot line, and there should not be anything inside of there. People should not be walking inside of that zone either, campaigning. So we've had regular complaints over the years. Similar situation at Parkwood, where the 50-foot line is not at the edge of the building, and so people will hide behind the edge of the building and ambush you coming in or going out. So, Kevin and I used to go out there with a piece of chalk and draw the great circle. At Cossie Building, we can probably do the same thing. We'll come out or send a piece of chalk with our poll inspector, and I'll even make a note.
We also, I don't know if you guys noticed, but we have the big feather flags now.
Yes.
Those are given to our inspectors to put up, and the inspector there, Hagan, he knows where to put it.
So it should be taken care of now,
It should,
correct?
yeah.
Okay, great, thank you.
Are you saying that it was not up in the primary?
I'm reporting from Susan Pop that it was a problem, and Chrissy, you're aware, right, that the entrance and where the signage was two different places, so the
Right.
signage was moved.
That is a very sporadic problem that we've had. I went out before and there'd maybe be one sign up front and the rest are in the back.
Okay,
Are you talking political, like campaign?
Political signs, yeah.
Campaign?
Yeah,
We don't really have control over
We
where they
can't police
put 'em
where
at
they
first,
put
but-
'em.
yeah, we try to keep them away from, like I said, at Cossie, it's the back door to the gym. And there is, if you proceed forward, there's like I don't even know, it's like a section of the building comes out in a corner. And the end of that corner is the 50-foot. And, I've had people move their stuff outside of there. And then people typically, they'll set their chairs up because the shade is in that area. So they will try to hide in the shade. And they want to campaign from there. But it's like, sorry, you should have brought an umbrella, move it behind the line. So, yeah, I'm familiar with that now that I realize Jeff 3 is that one. If we need to put chalk down, I'll gladly see that we get some chalk for the
Some spray
supplies.
paint, just get some white spray, the
Well,
kind
it's
that,
not our property.
the kind that actually it probably is, well, at some point. But the kind that washes away, there's that spray paint that,
I'll see if we. Yeah, that's.
I mean, it
not
wouldn't be a
idea.
bad idea to do all the polling places, there seems to always be something or someone.
Some of them
takes
are very
advantage.
obvious.
Some of them
Other
are.
ones are not. Maple School, for years, the entrance is on the side, and then the 50-foot chute is inside the gym, and it's like, no,
Yeah.
people need to stay away from the front door.
And I had someone say something to me, and I had to say, I am very aware where the 50-foot.
Yeah.
So go on in. And that same individual was leaning on the machine as I'm running my ballot. That is one thing that literally, really caused me an issue. I was about ready to tear her head off. Don't lean on the machine and look at my
Really?
ballot. Oh, absolutely.
No, I'm just saying, I
I mean,
can't believe they
I can
touch
say
it.
the individual's name, but I'm trying to
Right.
give a little grace. But that is one thing. And when I was a poll watcher or whatever it's called, in 20, man, I saw it everywhere. Everywhere. These inspectors or whoever it is, judges, whoever does that, I've not worked a poll, so I don't know. But whoever that is over there that's near the machine, judge, thank you, leaning on it multiple times. I saw that. That's like I explained to the individual at my poll. Well, if you need any help, I need help. You're a couple arm lengths away. I can call you.
Yeah. I mean,
You're not in the
typically,
bathroom or you're not
there's
anywhere.
a chair,
You're right
sit in the chair
Yeah.
next to the machine.
Get over
Don't
there.
touch the machine.
And I mean, I didn't, but that person had already said something to me about the 50-foot you know, and I was very well, I mean, my poll, you know, I know exactly where it is. So I'm like, really? And then you're doing this? Get out of here.
Right.
I'll tell you her name if she's working again. She needs to not be working again. Also,
Submit it to us in writing and we'll be glad to
whatever.
review it.
She's a Charlestown.
I'm upside the head this time.
She's
No.
in Charlestown Middle.
Yeah, tell them that, no, that's not it. She won't do it
I'm sure
again.
she went out there.
She won't do it again, neither hopefully will anybody else, because everybody heard me say it. Yeah. You know I'm about.
You're such a quiet spoken.
You're pretty soft spoken.
I didn't even use my good words.
Do you have our dates for
I
the
was trying to
public
give her a little
test?
grace.
You don't, you need to talk with
You
Bobby.
guys need to set them.
Can you get our calendar for us? Let us know when the deadline is, and, because I'd like to get it done before the deadline in case there is a screw up and we've got time to redo it, like we did back in May, or, in the primary.
Anyway.
I think that would be October 3rd, but you might want to double check that.
10-3 is the deadline for
I
public
think
test.
that's the one I'm reading. is correct, but I don't know.
It's the posted notice for TRA.
Let's see.
There you go. This deadline is the 7th, so we'll need to look into it.
Yeah, I want to do it, if we can do it, close of business on Monday, the, what is that, the 30th?
Monday,
Monday the 30th.
So, we'll need to have Bubby here. Public test, September 30th at 4:30, 4:45.
I'm texting Bobby.
See if he can do it at 4:45 in the basement at the Alamo.
So public test is September 30th, 4:45 here at the courthouse, in the basement. We just go directly down to the basement.
Yeah. And like I said, that's a week ahead of the deadline. If you all recall, the last one, they were, the cards that were submitted to us from the
Yeah.
SNS were they blank?
They were.
They weren't programmed correctly.
Yeah, they weren't programmed.
And so we had to rerun it later that week. So I want to make sure we have enough time to correct any kind of problem that comes up. All right. Yeah, we'll tentatively schedule. If Bubby
If
should
there's
be able to
any,
do
yeah,
it.
if there are any changes to it, we'll post it
Yeah.
in the text and on social media and everything, but that is the,
You have a Facebook page? You say social media?
Yep.
How's it worded?
Clark County voter registration.
We share stuff from them.
Really?
The ballot checks came from.
I try to be proactive on
Don't
that.
forget to sign up
Sometimes I
for
forget
the
with everything else.
mobile alerts.
And which phone number do they call to get a absentee ballot here? You said they can call.
It's our regular line, 283.
6329.
6329.
285.
285. I'm sorry.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, that's correct. That's 285.
What? What's
It's 285. I said 283.
285.
Oh, 285.
Wrong odd number.
6329.
Correct.
Okay.
All right. So we've got those dates set. September 30th at 4:45 here at the courthouse in the basement will be our public test. Our next meeting will be October 21st at 4:45 here in the clerk's office. I don't think we got any other stuff. No? All right, then I'll move that we recess till then. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Do you know what the reporter's last name is?